Hello, hello! Welcome to another episode of Prehistory in the Dark. I am your host, Darkness the Curse. And before we begin, as always, thank you so much to my generous patrons and our channel members from our sister channel over at History in the Dark. You are the reason why this content remains dangerous. Seriously, stay away. And today we're gonna do a part 2 of, I think, the first ever top 5 list I did for this channel? Was this the first or the second? I don't remember anymore. It's been a while. But, the first one did pretty well, all things considered, considering this channel doesn't get as many views as History in the Dark does. But, you know, why not? Let's continue this little series and see how far we can go. These are 5 dinosaurs that were definitely not safe to pet. Part 2. Seriously. Therizinosaurus cheiloniformis. If you were given a time machine, perhaps you would use it to go back and see the dinosaurs, and I get that. I might do that too. But we must be well informed regarding which ones were probably not safe to approach and or pet. And I get it. You want to pet all the good boys and girls. But some of them may prefer it if you don't. And it is very likely that Therizinosaurus was probably one of those. The first remains of this particular animal were found in 1948 in Mongolia, and they're actually only known from a few bones, so there's still a lot to learn about this particular creature. In fact, it's still debated whether or not they were herbivores or carnivores, though it is believed that they were in fact herbivorous. And you might hear that and say, well, they were herbivores. That means they're friendly, right? Okay, hippos are herbivores. That doesn't mean anything. They'll destroy you. And with Therizinosaurus, that seems to be something that should be considered. Because, the name Therizinosaurus literally means scythe lizard. And that is because of their forelimbs. See, Therizinosaurus had ridiculously oversized claws, which are suspected to have been used to cut large vegetation for them to eat, which is cool and all, but those claws could also be used for self-defense very easily. And by that I mean they could be used to impale you. Just straight through you. Just smacking you off to the side like you ain't nothing. I mean, they were huge. And the claws. The claws, man. This is not a good animal to mess around with, is what I'm trying to say. So, as much as you may want to approach this peaceful herbivore, it may be best if you choose not to do that, on the basis of not being impaled. I, personally, wouldn't want to be impaled. Let's just keep that in mind as we move forward, although the rest of these are mostly pretty obvious as to why you wouldn't want to approach them. Allosaurus. This is an extinct genus of theropod carnivores from the late Jurassic period. The type species is Allosaurus fragilis, although it also includes Allosaurus europaeus and Allosaurus jimadseni. There might be another one, Allosaurus maximus, though that one has not been confirmed to be a separate species just yet. Either way though, Allosaurus is a pretty famous dinosaur, right up there with something like T-Rex. It's probably the most famous predator from the actual Jurassic period, since T-Rex was Cretaceous. The first remains of this creature were actually described by Othniel Charles Marsh, and they were one of the first well-known theropod dinosaurs in general. Now, why shouldn't you pet these, though, if you wind up in the Jurassic period? Really? Really, you want to know why? That's a serious question. Are we doing this right now? Okay, look. Allosaurus was one of the apex predators of their time. They weren't as large as something like T-Rex, but they were still bigger than, say, you. And certainly capable of eating you, and they probably would be absolutely willing to do that. But some of the more well-informed of you might be like, what, but they had very weak jaw muscles. That's been proven, and yes, this is true. Compared to a lot of other theropods, Allosaurs did not have very strong jaws. But the Allosaurs had a different method for hunting. They had very strong necks, so they used their jaws like an axe and swung it down on large prey, causing deep gashes and letting them bleed out. This is probably how they hunted very large animals like sauropods, which they would have shared their environment with. And honestly, them having a weak jaw is not really much of a statement in this context, given the fact that their jaws were still large enough to hold us, and their jaws are stronger than ours, so, I mean... Look, don't pet it, alright? I don't see why we're having this discussion. Stop trying to pet things that are clearly going to destroy you. Dilophosaurus weather, really. What did I just say? Did we not learn anything from the first Jurassic Park? Okay, maybe that's not a good example, because that Dilophosaurus, it may have put it in your head that these things are capable of being cute, because all a lot of people seem to know is that they weren't actually venomous. They could not spit venom like a spitting cobra, that we know of. The idea of dinosaurs being venomous in general, personally, I would entertain the thought that at least one or two species might have actually evolved that at some point, but there's no evidence for it, particularly with Dilophosaurus. That was made up for both the novel and the movie by Michael Crichton, who just wanted to emphasize that there was a lot we didn't know about dinosaurs, and therefore, in cloning one, they might do something crazy that we just didn't know they could do. Same thing with the frill, that was not a thing they could do either. Well, that wasn't even in the book, that was added for the movie for dramatic effect. The name Dilophosaurus, however, does refer to one of the accurate things from the movie, two-crested lizard. And yes, they did have two crests on their heads. And without the frill, and without the venom, you might think that, well, they're pretty small though. I mean, yeah, maybe they're a little dangerous, but if one's being friendly, it was kind of cute. At least when it was stalking Nedry. I mean, going back in time, it should be fine. Okay, there's one other thing you should probably be aware of if you wind up in the early Jurassic period and meet one of these things. The one in the film is commonly believed by most fans, this is just headcanon for everybody, but the theory goes that that animal was actually a juvenile Dilophosaurus, and the reason why fans say this is that one of the other inaccurate things about the animal was its size. In real life, a full-grown Dilophosaurus was far and away larger, than, say, us. The largest known specimen was taller than the average person. Certainly big enough. Look, this is not a no. They were very slender, so they were probably fairly fast, and they were the largest known land animal of North America during the early Jurassic. They predate the Allosaurus, so they could be called the apex predators of their particular time frame, and as we've repeatedly established, do not try to pet the apex predators, okay? I get it. Your cat thinks it's an apex predator, but the cat has evolved to dwell with humans. The Dilophosaurs didn't at all. Do not approach these animals. Their teeth had serrations at their front and back edges. They will rip you to shreds. You want to wind up like Nedry? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Because that's what's gonna happen. Don't do it. Karcherodontosaurus. There, got it. This long-named animal is another theropod dinosaur that existed during the late Cretaceous. They lived in North Africa right alongside something like Spinosaurus, which we've already gone over as probably not being safe to pet. Two species currently make up this genus, C. saharicus and C. iguadensis, and they were, large. Very, very large. They're among the largest theropods ever discovered, and though they are technically smaller than T-Rex, that's saying nothing, because we're talking about a fraction of a meter smaller than T-Rex here. They were still very big and very lethal. They had a weaker bite force than T-Rex, but it was still strong enough to eat, say, you, in a single bite, because, no. They must have been fairly strong, because they did live in the same environment as Spinosaurus. These were two very large predators. Now, granted, Spinosaurus was a lot more aquatic, so they probably didn't get into territorial disputes that often, good because they reigned in two different parts of the environment, but still, This was a very large animal, and definitely not one you want to approach and give appropriate pats to. They were much more lightly built than T-Rex, probably meaning that they were a bit faster, though less built for outright combat, like T-Rex was, but they're still strong enough to eat you, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's really irrelevant here. No. Don't. Giganotosaurus, or Giganotosaurus, depends who you ask, is a genus with only one species in it, Giganotosaurus carolini. When the Giga was first discovered in South America, it reignited debate of how big theropods could get, as the Giga was potentially believed to be larger or at least in the same ballpark as T-Rex. And they're actually closely related to Karcherodontosaurus that we just discussed, except they were even larger. And much like their North African cousins, they were large but very narrow, indicating that they were built to be much faster. And this is something to remember in case you ever think about possibly petting one. One of the things I didn't like about the portrayal of the Giga in Jurassic World Dominion, besides the fact that the final fight with the T-Rex was kinda disappointing, was that they did not emphasize this animal's speed. Giga probably would not have fought another creature like the T-Rex does. T-Rexes are bulky, probably one of the strongest outright predators that ever walked the planet. Well built for combat, but Giga, while technically being slightly larger than the Rex, would have been built more for speed and quick action. Much of the Giga's prey was very, very large sauropods, so it's likely what they did is they ran into a herd and got a hold of at least one of them before the animals could defend themselves. T-Rex was an ambush predator too, but a lot of their prey was much more well-built in terms of defending itself, like Triceratops, who could have actually fought back, whereas sauropods generally depend on their outright size for defense. Giga would have had to deal with that, but their speed allowed them to get in before sauropods could actually do anything about it. A lot of articles point out that the T-Rex was only capable of going about 15 miles per hour, but understand that that is still faster than we can run. At least most people, unless you're Usain Bolt, but you're probably not Usain Bolt, and the Giga was probably faster than the Rex, so you're not getting away from this thing if it decides to eat you. They were definitely large enough to do that, and no, you cannot approach it and give it a pet. Don't actually do that, okay? I only ask that you be responsible with your time machine, and not wind up horrifically dead. Because if someday we find human fossils next to a Giganotosaurus fossil, like in the stomach, well, I'll know one of y'all didn't listen to me. It's kind of where I'm at with it, okay? Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.